Sorry. So now we said that Reb Shimon. We're asking why doesn't Reb Shimon say that they're not allowed to give away? They're not allowed to do chayrim on land. So we answered no. Reb Shimon never said that. Reb Shimon said that that when the Levium are allowed to do chayrim, it's only referring to movable items. Well, we have a problem with this. The problem is that Rebbe says that I'll accept Rabbi Yehuda regarding land, and I'll accept Reb Shimon regarding movable items. Now, when Rebbe says that, what he's really saying is that Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda are arguing about both things. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to say that this one makes sense to me over here, and this one makes sense to me over here. But that means that he can't say that Reb Shimon was only referring to the one thing that Rebbe is accepting. That means Reb Shimon has to be referring to more land, movable items and land, and Rebbe is only accepting it by the movable items.
Are you talking about the altar Rebbe?
No, when we talk about Rebbe in the Mishnah or Gemara, it's referring to Rabbi Yehuda the Prince. Rabbi Yehuda the Prince. Okay. So the Gemara says, Hachi Kama. I'm sorry, I missed the question inside. V'amidik tani seifa, but because the end of the Mishnah says, Amar Rabbi Nirin de Rabbi Yehuda b'mekarkai v'de Reb Shimon b'metaltli, but Rabbi says that he's accepting the words of Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to property. He's accepting the words of Reb Shimon when it comes to.
I think we accidentally, instead of hitting the pause button, hit the restart button.
Okay. In the words of Reb Shimon, when it comes to metaltli mechlal means this implies that Reb Shimon mekarkai nami kamar. That implies that Reb Shimon was actually referring to property as well. So the question on Reb Shimon is, what does he do with land? Why are you not allowed to? Why are you allowed to do chayrim on land? Okay. Gemara says hachi kamar. We're going to try to answer this up. This is what you call a daichik in yeshiva. A daichik means it's a teretz that you're pushing it really hard to get it to fit. It's like the daichik is like this. You're squeezing it into something. Hachi kamar. This is what it means. Amar Rebbe says, Nirin div Rabbi Yehuda Reb Shimon b'karkais. Rebbe says, I accept the words of Rabbi Yehuda that he's arguing with Reb Shimon regarding property. Sha'af Reb Shimon le nechlak Allah v'elabim metaltlin, because even Reb Shimon never argued with him only regarding metaltlin. Aval b'karkais maidalei. But he agrees with him regarding property. So what's the machlekes? Reb Shimon holds that you're allowed to do, a Levi can consecrate movable items. But he agrees with him regarding property. So we thought the machlekes was completely, Rabbi Yehuda held that Levium are not allowed to do any chayrim, and Reb Shimon held Levium are allowed to do all chayrim. And now we end up with Rabbi Yehuda holds Levium are not allowed to do any chayrim because he has the analogy between movable items and land. And Reb Shimon holds that Levium are allowed to do chayrim, but not by land, only by movable items. That's what we're holding up. Reb Chia bar Oven. Reb Chia bar Oven says, Hichrim metaltlin. If someone consecrates movable items, nice in the kol kain shiur, so he can give them to any kain that he wants. Shenemar kol chayrim b'Yisrael, any chayrim amongst the Jewish people, l'cha yiyeh goes to you. It's referring to Aaron. Now, since Aaron is an individual, so that continues on to any of his children. It could go to any one of those, any individual of his children. Hechrim sedaisav. What about if he consecrates fields? So it's not something that you can walk around with and hand it to anyone that you see on the street. It's always in place, and someone is going to acquire it somehow. Naistan l'kayin shebaysi mishmar. Then it goes to the kayin that's serving that week in the temple, because the kayinim were divided up into 24 families. each family served for a week. So approximately twice a year. So this goes to the Kayan from that week.
It's interesting because that's the same as we said with if there was no goel for the stay achuza on Yovel and it went to Kohanim, we said it would go to
the Kayan of that Yovel, right? They'd have to wait many hundreds of years for their turn to come around.
Yeah. So pretty much everyone got.
So what does this mean? That the Kohen of the week, they lucked out?
Yeah.
Just because that was the week that somebody felt moved to give some land.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but Hashem
when it comes to fairness, we wouldn't consider this fair. Even though in the big calendar it does work out because it's not perfect. It's 24, which would mean 48.
Right.
Which means it's going to keep moving. But you're going to have to tell someone you have to wait a few hundred years till it's your turn. And then let's see if anyone gives anything.
Which means it's like
but here we're not talking about the Yovel.
Hashgacha practice.
Here we're talking about anyone that consecrates any time during the year. You consecrate something to the Kayan any time during the year. So, okay. Shenemar, Kestei HaCherem, LaKayan Tiach Uzasai. Like Kestei HaCherem, to the Kayan it should be as inheritance. The Gamar, and we learn over here, Gamar, as we learn, like Gemara, Lakayan migesel ager. We have an analogy from the word kayan to the word kayan that it says by gesel ager. Gesel ager is if someone steals from a convert and he wants to pay back, but the convert had already died and he doesn't have any relatives. Because any Jewish person always has a relative, even if he doesn't have a close relative. But if you go back to his grandfather, there's got to be some grandchildren. You go back all the way to Yaakov Avinu, there must be someone, right? So, but I guess for a ger, it doesn't have any relatives to return the item to. So, what happens by gezel ager? V'hasa minalan. Over there it says the Tanya was taught in a brisa. La Hashem la kayan. You give it to Hashem, to the kayan, which means kanu Hashem and asan la kayan shabayis mishmar. Hashem, it's acquired by Hashem and it's given to the kayan during that watch. You say that it goes to the kayan during that watch, which means during that week. Maybe it means any kayan that you want. Who says that it's specifically that one? Besides for the Yom Kippurim, which was the korban that you needed to bring together with this. Which parsha was this? Shlach, I think. It's like thrown in there, like in the middle of something. I guess like this. Maybe it's in Nasa. Okay. Besides for the sacrifice, who gets the sacrifice? It must be the kayan that's during that watch that brings the sacrifice. So besides for the sacrifice, he also gets the stolen item, stolen money from the convert, because he died. So too we'll make this analogy to the Sdei Acherem, that he'll also get, if he's in that watch, that's what he'll get. Sadeh hayoytze l'kainim b'yovel, neisin l'mishma shepaga b'yovel. This is what you mentioned at this time. That if someone consecrates a field and he doesn't redeem it, when the Jubilee comes, it goes to the Kayanim. Which Kayanim? The Kayanim that are in that watch, in that serving in the temple at that time when the Yovel is there. Where's the question now? Ibaylahu. Pagabay b'Shabbos Mai. Let's say Yom Kippur, that year of Yovel, is on Shabbos. Now, what happens on Shabbos is that there's two watches there. The old watch is on its way out, and the new watch is coming in. So, who does it go to? The old watch or the new watch? I'm not sure if it's before Shkia. The new watch starts already before Shkia, maybe. Let's see what the Bina Gershon says. So it says on Shabbos, both watches are serving. They're both there. The one that's going out does the tamid in the morning, and the new one is doing the tamid in the afternoon. So the question here is, which kainim are going to get this? It's Yovel, it's Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur's on Shabbos. You have two watches there. Which one is going to get this property? Amar Rab Chia Barami Mishmei de Chulfana. Translate Chulfana. Is that a person or is that an expression?
Name of received teachings.
Is there a note on that?
Received teachings.
This is not a common...
Emendation follows Gra, and that goes... Just saying that... Oh, wait,
I don't even see the Gra here.
The meaning of the phrase, in the name of received teachings, is that he had heard it from a teacher who had in turn heard it from his teacher, who had heard it from his teacher, and heard he's a song. The ofen the Shishama mi Rabbo v'Rabbo mi Rabbo.
Do they quote someone that says it?
Eruvin 67a Rashi.
Oh. Okay, so there's another Gemara that has it. Okay. So he says it in the name of someone that heard from someone that heard from someone. Nice to the Mishmar Hayose. You give it to the Mishmar that's leaving. Okay. Mishmar Hayose, the one that's leaving. Amar Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak Tanya Nami Hachi. Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak says that this was also taught in a brisa. Nimtzasata Eimer, comes out that you say, Echad Yovel v'Echad Shvius Mishamtem Kechad. Yovel and Shvius both absolve debts at the same time, or sold properties. Yovel, Shemitah doesn't absolve the sold properties, but the Yovel does. But they both take effect at the same time. Ela sheYovel betchilasei v'hashmita b'soifa. The Yovel is at the beginning of the year, and the Shemitah is the end of the year. Now the Yovel, on the last Shemitah, on the 7th Shemitah, the following year would be Yovel. So both of these things are going to take effect at the same time, right? Because for the 50th year would be the Yovel. So the Shemitah absolves at the end of the year. The Yovel is at the beginning of the year. The Gemara says, Adarabba. On the contrary, the way we said this is that they both take effect at the same time. Ella, only, however, but this one is at the beginning and this one is at the end. It says, no, on the contrary, Mishum Hachi Habi. It's because of that it's the same time. It's not a but. Why is it the same time? Because Shemitah is at the end and Yovel is at the beginning, that's what makes it at the same time. It's not but, this is at the end, that's at the beginning. When Shemitah ends, Yovel begins in the last Shemitah. Where it says, Ema.
Isn't that the one time that you actually have the land fallow for 4 years as opposed to 3?
Oh.
Because normally...
Maybe. Yeah, because at the end of the 6th, you can't prepare that for the 7th. Mm-hmm. Then you have the 7th, and then in the 8th you have nothing there.
Planting for you only to the 9th, but here there's another year in between, so it's actually a 4 year one. Talk about a miracle.
Ema mipneisha hayovel. Say it different. Say because the yovel is at the beginning. So we have to adjust the brisa. Whatever the case is, bishlem shvius. We understand why shvius is beseifa. Is at the end. Diksiv miketz shavashanim tasa shmita. Miketz means at the end. The end of 7 years, you have shmita, and that's the end of the 7th. That's when the
Torah portion, the Ketz.
Right. Right. That's the same word. Right. Ela Yovel betchila. Ela Yovel betchilasai b'yom Kippurim. Yovel is not totally at the beginning. It's on Yom Kippur. Diksiv b'yom Kippurim tevir shei b'chalar tzechem. It's not on Rosh Hashanah. It's on Yom Kippur. It's 10 days later. Well, I would say, okay, it's close enough. But the Gemara is not happy with that. Hamani,
Didn't we say that
there was an
Rosh
opinion that we said that Rosh Hashanah that year was on Yom Kippur, right?
something like that.
So the Gemara says, Hamani Rabbi Shmuel ben Aishal Rabbi Yochanan ben Breikahu. This is going according to the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. The Amar me Rosh Hashanah Dechayil Yovel. Yovel is on Yovel takes place on Rosh Hashanah, not on Yom Kippur. So we have one opinion here where it's exactly the same time. The end of the Shemitah and the beginning of Yovel is exactly the same time. Okay, let's see what happens here. Shamei Chizkiah bar Bilti. Chizkiah bar Beluti. Here's what Reb Chia bar Ravin said. Chia bar Ravin said that you can give it to any kohen that you want, a regular cherem. Cherem of fields go to kohenim shabaysim mishmar, and the field that goes out by the kohenim by Yovel goes to the kohenim that are serving by Yovel. And Va'azal Amar Kamei de Rabbapo. So Chizki bar Biluti went and set it over to Rabbapo. That tells me that Chia bar Ravin was early. Rabbapo was over here. Okay, what happens? He says, "V'lakish metatli lekarkois." Why don't we compare? You see, we have all of these different halachas here. That regular property, movable property goes to any kohen that you want. Land goes only to the kohenim that are serving then. Why don't we compare the two? So he says, Lav tanoihi dikadamakish vikadleimakish. Isn't there a machlekes? I don't know who's saying this. One is saying to the other. If we are makish Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, one compares the two. He says that there's an analogy, and therefore Levium are not allowed to do cherem, and the other one says that you can. The Gemara answers, Kamanda Amar Le Makshinan. This is going according to the one that doesn't compare, which is Reb Shimon. And therefore, according to Reb Shimon, you would have these differences. But if you don't follow Reb Shimon, then you would have to do it, all of them, to the one that's working at that time in the temple. Usually we don't paskin like Reb Shimon, you know that, right?
I'm sorry?
Reb Shimon Bar Yochai.
Yeah.
Usually the halacha is not like him.
What do you mean by that?
That means if there's...
Halacha's not like him?
Right.
It's the opposite of what he says?
Well, Reb Shimon is one of the
Right.
So if Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda are arguing, the halacha is probably like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to the way we do it.
Why is that?
I'm not sure. It's
That's
just
the Rashbi who was in the
Yeah,
cave.
yeah.
So maybe because he was, like, out of touch with maybe people in reality, he could not take into
It's not always like that.
construct.
It's not always like that. But it's definitely no rule that we always go like Reb Shimon. That's not. Anyway, over here, it's following Reb Shimon because it's giving that answer according to the one that doesn't. Reb Chia bar Ravin is definitely following Reb Shimon according to the one.
So Reb Shimon and Yehuda are, a lot of times they say the
argue.
opposite of each other.
Right.
And why is that?
Two Jews.
So they can show us how they didn't do what accused students did. They can discuss something without
Okay,
their
very nice.
ego.
Okay. Okay, there's a new Mishnah here. It's good?
I'm sorry?
We're clear?
Yeah, the other thing I just wanted to say was, why is there so many rules about what this Cohen and that Cohen and the other Cohen? Maybe it's because they represent the connection to Hashem, and we have to be reminded that He's in control of everything, of all our sustenance. We have no control over it. Maybe, I don't know. That's fine.
Could be. We leave all spiritual things to you.
Please.
Chermei kayanim elem pidyon. If someone consecrates something to give to the kayanim, there's no redemption. This is different. There is such a thing as chermei bedek habayis, where someone consecrates it to the temple, not to the individual kayanim. Someone gives it to the kayanim, to the people, so then you can't redeem it. But if it's bedek habayis, then you can redeem it. Bedek
What's the
habayis.
difference between Bedek Habayis and Hekdesh?
Bedek habayis is hekdesh.
We've been
But the
redeeming
thing is-
them at the last
right.
10 pages.
Right. But if it's given to the kayanim, then you don't. And now the bedek habayis has no need for these items that people are giving them. You know, my teddy bear or something. What are they? The only need that they have is to sell it and to use the money for the functioning of the temple. So there's definitely pidyon on anything that goes to bedek habayis.
But didn't this parak begin? These are the halachas after the Beis HaMikdash, when there is no Yovel?
Right.
So what's the Bedek Habayis?
Right.
Is that similar to Korbanot, or?
Let's see.
That word?
It didn't mention the bedek habayis yet. It just says chermei kayanim. I'm contrasting it to the bedek habayis. So, ela noisan lakayim kitruma goes to the kayanim like truma. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Imer. This is temple times. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira.
Yeah.
How do you know? It's temple times. You know, because of the Gemara Psachim.
What?
There's the Gemara Psachim.
I'm sorry.
Where a non-Jew came to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, said that I ate from the Korban Pesach. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said, yeah, but they didn't give you the tail. They knew that you weren't real. Anyway, go back, see if they'll give you see if you can fool them about that. So he goes back, and he says, I want the tail. He said, no, there's something wrong with it. Who told you to get the tail? The tail is burnt on the altar. So he said, what? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said, oh, something, let's check this guy out. If Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said that, there must be some, and they found out that he was a non-Jew. He was just going for the Kiddush. So, so Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira was during the temple times. At the end, probably, but Stam, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, Stam charamim lebedek habayis. If he doesn't say specifically, it means it's for the temple. Okay. Chachamim stam charam lakayanim. Chachamim say no. Stam chaim goes to the kayanim. Shnemer kestei achirim lakayin tiachuzasei. Kestei achirim lakayin tiachuzasei. Like kestei achirim for the kayanim shall be his inheritance. Imkein lama nemer kol chayim kodesh kedashim ul Hashem. According to the Chachamim, why does it say that it goes to Hashem, which means the temple? Shechal al kachim kachim, val kachim kalim. What does that mean? Yes, if someone has a sacrifice, someone is responsible to bring a sacrifice. So he separates an animal. And then that animal that he separates to be for his sacrifice, which he has a responsibility to bring, because he said, Harei alai, that animal that he separates, he was machrim it. So,
Well, the Rashi says it's sequential. It follows a neder. Not that I understand this.
Rashi says that if he took a neder, took a neder, he says Harei Alai. He's accepting on himself to bring a sacrifice. So he has to give, and then he consecrates the animal that he separated. So he has to give that value to the kohen. That means that it could be chal. The cherem could be chal, could take effect on something that's already sanctified, and then he has to give that value. Let's see how it plays out. Shechal kachim kachim, ral kachim kalim, and it can also be on kachim kalim. Macher madam es kedoshav. A person can make a cherem even though it's sanctified already, even though it's something that it's holy. Bein kachim kalim, bein kachi kachim, bein kachim kalim. Im neder, if it's a neder, what's a neder? If he says Harei Alai, I'm accepting on myself, right, to bring a sacrifice, and then he didn't designate the animal, so he goes and designates the animal. So what does he do? Neisin demeyim. He gives the value of the animal to the kohenim, because he just made a cherem. Vim nedava, if it's a nedava, that means he said Harei zu. So a nedava is not his really, because he designated the animal itself. The animal has already left his jurisdiction. So what does he do then? Neisin es tevasan. He gives the value that he owns in the right of which he has a certain right of which kohen he wants to give it to. It's called tevasana. So that value he has to give to the kohenim. Okay.
So what's the difference if in each case he's given the value?
No, there's the value of rights, and there's the value of the animal. So if it's a nedava, it's the value of the rights. Alpha b'shein rashai. Now, really, you weren't supposed to do this. How do they translate rashai over there? I'm sorry, I skipped a line. I skipped a line. So okay. Shor ze oila. If someone says this ox is an oila, Eindim kama adam reitzalitim b'shor ze la leisei oila. How do we normally tevasana is you get to choose a kohen. Over here, we're adding to the tevasana. We're saying that your rights are a little bit more than that. If someone consecrates an animal as an oila, we say how much would a person want to bring an animal as an oila when he had no obligation to do that, but he just as a gift. So I would do that for a certain amount of money. Alpha Pisha and Rashai, even though he wasn't obliged. Obligated. So usually Rashai means allowed, but over here Rashai means obligated. Okay. So there's a little bit of a value to that.
Is that the same like Hebrew equivalent of Rashus?
Yeah, Rashus means allowed.
Yeah.
Here, Alpha Pisha Eina Rashai, even though he's not obligated, if he's not compelled. Right? And it's the same opposite. It's the same difference, but it's not the same. It's not the same word. Alpha Pisha Eina Rashai. It's you would say Alpha Pisha Rashai, even though he's allowed.
He doesn't have.
Okay. Habachar, if it's a firstborn animal, bein tam bein muad. Bein tam bein bal muad machrimin. Whether it's a perfect animal without a blemish, or whether it's an animal with a blemish, that we said if it's a firstborn animal, it belongs to the kohen, right? Machrimin. Those you're allowed to make cherem. The Ketzad Paidanaisan. How does he redeem it? Let's say someone has a son-in-law that's a kohen. or he has a nephew that's a Kayan. Now, he had a Bechar already. This fellow has a Bechar. He has to give it to the Kayan. Then he goes ahead and he takes this Bechar and he makes a Chayrim on it. So he has to give it to the Kayan. So how does he give it to the Kayan twice? So what he does is he takes the value of what someone would be willing to pay to be able to give a Bechar to his nephew that's a Kayan, or to his grandson that's a Kayan. Let's say his daughter married a Kayan. Say, oh, I would give a certain amount of money for you to give your animal specifically to my grandson or to my nephew that's a Kayan. I'm willing to pay that amount. Now that's the amount that he now has to give as the Chayrim, because he's consecrated something that's already the Kayan. That's the amount that he has to give to the Kayan. Taner Rabbanan. Karmei Kayanim Eilam Pidyon. The Chayrim of Kayanim, there's no redemption. That's what we learned in the beginning of the Mishnah. For Naisin LaKayanim, it's given to the Kayanim. Charamim, Kozman Shehein, the base Bailim. Any Chayrim, as long as it's in the original owner's house, Harayin Kehektish L'chol Devreim, it's like regular Hektish. Shnemer Kol Chayrim B'Yisrael, Kodesh Kodashim Hul Hashem. Any Chayrim amongst the Jewish people, it's Kodesh Kodashim to Hashem. Nasim LaKayan, once it's given to the Kayan, look at what happens. Harayin L'chol Devreim Kechul, and it becomes mundane. Shnemer Kol Chayrim B'Yisrael L'chayeh, because it becomes their regular property.
So you give something to a Kohen,